This week we will mark 1 year since the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. The official residence of the U.S. ambassador is also moving to Jerusalem.
Remember when Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and Netanyahu named a settlement after him?
The United States of America is opening its embassy right here in Jerusalem.
Today we officially opened the United States Embassy in Jerusalem. Congratulations. It's been a long time coming.
Those days are over. In a stunning reversal that has diplomats scrambling, Trump is systematically dismantling America's special relationship with Israel. And he's doing it with the same blunt force that made him famous. He was very early, like earlier than most, Trump said about Netanyahu after he congratulated Biden in 2020.
Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu no longer allies, at least not now. The former president confirming he doesn't even speak to the former Israeli prime minister, adding, F him. Trump goes on to say the first person that congratulated Biden was Bibi Netanyahu, the man that I did more for than any other person I dealt with. He has made a terrible mistake.
But this isn't just about personal feelings. It's about a fundamental reshaping of Middle East power dynamics that could change the region forever. Let's break down how we got here and what happens next. When Trump returned to office in January 2025, Netanyahu was among the first world leaders to visit the White House. The Israeli prime minister profusely praised Trump as the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
You have been the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House.
Trump responded that U.S. Israel ties were on the same side of every issue. Fast forward just 4 months and everything has changed. The relationship that once seemed unbreakable is now fracturing before our eyes. The first crack appeared on May 6, 2025, when Trump announced a surprise ceasefire with Yemen's Houthi rebels. America would halt aerial operations in Yemen while the Iran-backed Houthis would stop attacking commercial shipping in the Red Sea, except for Israeli vessels, which remained fair game. Israeli officials were blindsided. One anonymously told reporters that Washington had secured its own interests, leaving Israel to deal with the Houthis alone. Netanyahu's government, which had grown accustomed to unconditional American support, suddenly found itself isolated. Then came the diplomatic equivalent of a slap in the face. Trump announced a high-profile tour of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar for May 13th to 16th, conspicuously skipping Israel entirely. This marks the first time in decades a U.S. president has toured the Middle East without visiting America's closest regional ally. You won't see this story covered accurately in mainstream media. Israeli-aligned outlets are already flooding social networks with misleading narratives, and bot networks are working overtime to bury any suggestion of a rift between Trump and Netanyahu. Hit that like and subscribe button right now so we can fight back against these bots that want to bury this story. Your engagement helps us break through their algorithmic suppression and get the truth out. Now let's continue with what's really happening. The real bombshell dropped between May 7th to 9th when the administration confirmed they were delinking Saudi-Israel normalization as a precondition for a Saudi civil nuclear deal. For years, U.S. policy had made Saudi cooperation contingent on progress with Israel. Now Trump was telling the Saudis, you don't need to play nice with Israel to do business with America. The Jerusalem Post ran alarmed headlines about U.S. Israel relations at a crossroads, while Israeli officials scrambled to understand what was happening. Netanyahu, trying to save face, claimed he had a wonderful call with Trump about the upcoming GCC summit. But behind closed doors, panic was setting in. This diplomatic earthquake comes just weeks after the Signalgate scandal.
Now, the political journalist at the center of a row over the leaking of sensitive U.S. military information has confirmed that he was mistakenly added to an insecure group chat by the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz.
A major security breach that exposed how top U.S. officials were using the encrypted messaging app Signal to coordinate sensitive military operations. Between March 11th to 15th, senior national security officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, used a Signal group chat to plan airstrikes in Yemen, sharing sensitive details, weapon types, times, and identities of agents. On March 15th, Waltz accidentally added journalist Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic to the group chat. Goldberg received live intelligence in a CIA operative's name, a catastrophic security breach that exposed America's Yemen operations. The Pentagon issued an advisory that Signal was vulnerable to Russian surveillance. The Atlantic published a redacted transcript of the chat. Der Spiegel and Wired exposed further lapses, including Hegseth including his spouse in security briefings. As DoD investigations began, it emerged that Waltz had used an Israeli-made signal clone, TMSGNL, by telemessage that was later hacked. 2 DoD staffers, Darren Selnick and Dan Caldwell, were suspended amid the leaks. But the seeds of Trump's disillusionment with Netanyahu were planted years earlier. In January 2020, Trump ordered the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Israel was expected to participate but withdrew at the last minute. Trump accused Netanyahu of backing out unexpectedly, claiming Israel let us down, and later tried to take credit. Israeli officials countered that they provided critical intelligence, but the U.S. insisted on leading the strike alone. Trump's resentment lingered, viewing Netanyahu as disloyal. Then came the November 2020 election. While Trump contested the results, Netanyahu quickly congratulated Biden on his win. Trump's reaction was explosive. F him? He was very early, like earlier than most. This betrayal led Trump to boycott Netanyahu, souring their relationship further. The Hamas attack on October 7, 2023 created another rift. Trump publicly blamed Netanyahu for Israel's failure to anticipate the attack, calling him unprepared and criticizing Israeli intelligence. He even praised Hezbollah as very smart.
You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it.
A shocking statement about Israel's enemy. Netanyahu's office avoided direct retaliation, focusing on wartime unity, but the damage was done. Trump had publicly undermined Netanyahu's credibility at his most vulnerable moment. Now, in May 2025, Trump has delivered 2 final blows: the Houthi ceasefire that leaves Israel exposed, and the Gulf trip that excludes Israel entirely. Netanyahu vowed to defend ourselves alone after the Houthi deal, calling the lack of coordination a setback for Israel. The Saudi normalization shift is perhaps the most significant. By dropping the U.S. requirement for Saudi-Israel normalization as a precondition for a Saudi civil nuclear deal, Trump has removed Israel's leverage in the region. Saudi Arabia had refused normalization without Palestinian progress, and Trump chose Saudi investments over Israeli concerns. The implications of this shift are enormous. For decades, Israel has been the centerpiece of American Middle East policy. Now Trump is building direct relationships with Arab states first, treating Israel as just one player among many, rather than the region's privileged partner. Let's recap the 5 major conflicts that brought us here. January 2020, Soleimani assassination and Israeli non-participation. November 2020, Netanyahu congratulates Biden while Trump contests results. October 2023, Trump blames Netanyahu for Hamas attack. May 2025, Houthi ceasefire excludes Israeli protection. May 2025, Saudi normalization delinked from Israel. What happened next? Trump's Gulf tour delivered more than speculation. It delivered deals. In Saudi Arabia, he finalized a $142 billion arms agreement, part of a broader $600 billion investment pledge into the U.S. economy. In Qatar, he secured a record-breaking $96 billion Boeing aircraft deal and signed new defense contracts. These moves have intensified regional realignments, with Israel now watching closely, not just for exclusion, but for the emergence of a new power bloc in the Gulf built on U.S. partnerships without Israeli input. The bottom line, the special relationship between America and Israel that has defined Middle East politics for generations is unraveling before our eyes. Whether this is a temporary cooling or a permanent shift remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, Netanyahu's days of having a blank check from Washington are over. If you like the video, please hit that like button and subscribe our channel. Sam Extrudes for more interesting and informative content.